Hello and welcome to another Total War cast here at e-rev.tv. I'm going to be your host for tonight. I'm e-rev Just Add Water. I'm accompanied by e-rev Blazing Kami, and our video caster for tonight will be e-rev Limek. And we'll be running three maps tonight: Ruins, Island, and Silo. The first of which will be Silo. And I'll go ahead and toss the mic over to Blazing Kami to give you an intro on the map.
Well, first off, we're going to be fighting on Silo, and Silo is pretty much a 4-point map for those of you who play WIC, and pretty much the mainstay battle is probably going to be at the main base as well as the radar station up on the hill. Both bases are pretty much right in the middle of things. However, they're somewhat to the side, so I would expect that they might send a striking force across to the back point.
Just taking a look at the map, just from a visual standpoint, it's a nice looking map, but just to add on to what Kami is saying, there's not many avenues for armor and infantry to move. It looks like it will be an artillery and air focused map. Just waiting on you, Limek, to go ahead and join a team so we can get this started when you have a chance. But also, guys, if you have IRC, please go ahead and hop on to the Game Surge Network and go to our channel, #e-rev, and you can go ahead and send a shout-outs to myself. I'm e-rev Just Add Water, and please feel free to visit our website, www.e-rev.tv, register on the forums, and tell your friends about us. Get us out there. Really hope to make a big impact with the WIC community once TGL and various other leagues start up on the North American scene. We'll be covering all of those. So right now I believe we have all the players in, and we're just waiting for everyone to ready up before this match can get underway.
Yeah, well, it looks like there's a few good players from the U.S. side. A little bit of a different team, so I'm expecting the Americans to probably come back hard. But, you know, there's a lot of good players on 51P that we saw last time, so hopefully this is going to be a good match.
Just remembering back from Xmas, it was a great play by the Russians. They did a fantastic job on that map, defending it, coming back from a surprise USA American offensive at one stage. But again, we're just waiting for everyone to ready up, and we can get this underway. Remember, guys, this cast happens every Tuesday night. It's Total War Tuesday Night Fights, generally 6-on-6. Go ahead and visit the Total War site. I believe it's total-war.com. Register for them. It's not a traditional league. It's an ongoing community tournament where you have the USSR going up against USA and NATO, and they battle over a map for strategic locations.
Yeah, it's a lot like Risk, basically, for the big-time commanders, and they choose which maps they want to fight over, which territories, and you know, they put points into it, and you know, decide how much they're willing to risk in order to come out at the end of the campaign with a win.
And guys, also give a shout. Go ahead and visit, or actually, another news. e-rev, we are looking for casters for the WIC scene and for various other RTS games. So if you believe you can fit the bill, go ahead and sign up. Go to the e-rev forums and put your resume in the Join Us section. We'll go ahead and read that and see if you fit the bill, and you can join our little team we got going here. So we're getting started here in 10 seconds. I'm just going to hop back into spec.
Now, obviously, the first deployment's going to be pretty important here. It'd be interesting to see if the Americans have switched up their tactics from last time. They might be bringing in back their 2 air players, but who knows?
Well, I'm taking a look at the USSR side. Looks like they have 1 armor, 1 support, an air player, 2 support players actually, and 2 armor, 2 air, or 2 armor, 2 support, and 1 air player. Or they have 6 players on their team. I'm trying to find who their 6th player is right now. I don't think they've deployed, but right off the bat, looks like Plaza and Cracker are heading over towards the main base. They have a combo of a few repair tanks, 2 heavy anti-air vehicles, and two medium tanks and 2 heavy tanks, while Night Owl, the Pie Spy, and Horton are heading up to the radar station, and we have Night Owl up there with heavy helicopters, but here comes Trekker with some heavy AAA. He forces them away. Pie Spy making his tanks go up the hill, and they're just holding it there. A few heavy tanks, but he's going to be overwhelmed right now by, who is that? It looks like it's Hellhound. Hellhound has the tank advantage.
Yeah, the Russians look like they're concentrating mainly on the main base. It looks like, they've sent a force over to the radar station, just, trying to grab it if they can in case the Americans didn't send. But for the most part, it just looks like, the Russians are concentrating on the main base. They got a lot of units there, but so do the Americans, although it's mostly seems to be AA.
Well, it looks like Hybrid for the Russian side is their 6th player. He's playing infantry, and he's stationed up on the upper hill of the main base. And we have a battle going on between Rescue, Jimbo, and Plaza and Hybrid. So they're trying to retake these upper points. They're just getting picked apart right now, but I believe Plaza's brought the much-needed firepower to the plate with his 2 heavy tanks, so I think the Russians are going to take the main base if Plaza plays his cards right. But looking over at the USA side, Raid is an air player for the USA side, along with, well, I guess they're only running air player. It looks like Thor is an armor player, Jimbo's an armor player, Hellhound's an armored player, so we have 3 armored players, 1 air player, and I'm not sure what their other players are. It looks like Trekker's the support, so they have a lot of armor players on the map right now.
Yeah, definitely. But once again, if you look on the Russian side, you've got Night Owl, who's the air player, and we saw him last time with those heavy choppers, and those just dominated all the tanks, despite the fact the Americans concentrated a lot of AA. He did a really good job of doing the hit-and-run tactics with the heavy choppers. And just now the Russians have taken both the radar station and the main base, and the Americans look to be in a little bit of trouble right now.
Well, going off what you said about Night Owl, looks like Raid for the Americans is dedicated medium air player, so his job is just to take down Night Owl, and he's moving in right now with a few AA missiles, but his choppers is just getting picked to shreds right now. He deployed his AA or his flares just in time and survives with only 1 chopper loss. But the Russians have taken the main base, they have the radar, and they have the Gulch, so they do have quite a bleed on the Americans right now.
Yeah, definitely. And the Americans did a good job of changing up from last time. They definitely are going with the medium choppers because they obviously saw from last time that the heavy choppers the Russians are using are very, very effective at taking down the tanks. And it looks like a large armor push right for the center into the main base. It looks like Thor pushing in with his tanks, and you got AA from Rescue trying to grab the second side. And yep, the Americans have managed to grab one of the circles. They just need to get the other 2 and knock off those tanks up on the hill.
I was taking a look at, looks like Hybrid has a few infantry in that tower, but they don't seem to be doing much. But here comes Night Owl doing quite a number on these tanks. The American tanks out in the open without cover on a map like this where they can't run away so easily. It's going to spell disaster for them. Raid's moving in trying to help, but looks like he's mixed up his choppers now. He's running heavies and mediums. So it gets a little bit of the best of both worlds, but I'm not sure how well that will work out for him. But Night Owl seems to be doing a little bit of the same as he's running a medium attack helicopter of his own.
Looks like the Americans are also pushing for radar station here. A lot of armor, a lot of repair trucks. Americans are doing a good job of pretty much, switching up their attacks between main base and the radar station, but honestly, this isn't working because the Russians are just bringing in their choppers and they're, able to knock out all these tanks before they can get in. They need to think about possibly making a push for the Russian back point there.
Well, another good thing the Americans are doing differently from last map is, they're spawning in and they're waiting for their units to come in. They're not sending them one at a time in, which was one of the major problems they had. And here comes a carpet bomb by Plaza, just dominated. 2 American players, took down a lot of armor and support units, and You know, at this stage, to take out Night Owl, I think you might need 2 players running medium air. And there we go, another carpet bomb by the Soviets, decimating, just decimating these American points. They carpet bombed the ridge, and that did quite a number. The Americans right now did take the radar station, but the Soviets do have a minor bleed on them. There's 14 minutes left on the clock. The Americans need a big turnaround right now if they want to be back in this game.
Yeah, definitely. They need to grab another point for sure, because if they can get a third point, that means that the bleed is going to go heavily in their favor. Right now, the Russians have the advantage because they were the last team to retake one of the points, which means they have a slight bleed, even though they, it's pretty much even here.
Well, Night Owl moving up to the radar station, loses a chopper, but it doesn't give time for Horton to move up and decap the American hold, as the Spy is coming around the ridge, coming around the radar's mountaintop with 4 heavy tanks, and he's going to be able to run away with this. Trekker's running away as repair tanks. I think he's afraid of some TA retaliation at this point, and rightly so. Night Owl using an air-to-air strike and just takes down the 2 helicopters Raid had up there. I wasn't sure if they were medium or heavy helicopters, but looks like Trekker's just holding those repair tanks next to Hellhound's heavy tank. And Hellhound's called up some more heavy tanks, and there we go. They've got the radar station again, but the Soviets do have the bleed on the Americans. That main base is really helping them out a lot.
Yeah, definitely. The main thing the Americans really need to think about doing here is not just going for the main base as well. They might want to try pushing with a lot of units right through the radar station. That way they can keep it defended, but at the same time push back to the Russian back point, which will give them that third point. Unfortunately, they're split up right now. They've got troops over on either side of the map trying to take both points, and the Russians, because they've got their fortifications getting built up and they've just taken radar right now, it's pretty hard to keep a separated attack.
A nice play by Hybrid right there. He went ahead and maxed out on troop transport trucks, and there we go. He moves them in for their speed and decaps the ridge, and the bleed is huge for the Soviets. They almost have total domination now, and they'll get it in a few seconds, and I guess they're going to win this map as a nuclear bomb just goes off at the last second. There we go. USSR wins with 11 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. Top players are Plaza, the Pie Spy, and Hybrid. Top roles for infantry of Hybrid, support Trekker, armor Plaza, and air Night Owl. So a great job by the USSR.
Yeah, that's got to be a devastating loss for the Americans. They have the tactics, they know what they're doing right now, but they just couldn't pull it out, and they just completely got wasted. Rather than wasting TA points on that nuke, they should have thought about some of the smaller TA, and that probably would have helped them out in that serious situation.
Well, speaking of smaller TA, if you watch the whole match, the Russians really used a lot of cluster bombs. The biggest TA they pulled out were those carpet bombs, which were really helpful. They stopped a massive American push of tanks and support units into the middle. So it was a good play by them with the tactics they used. But now we are on our second map of the evening. I believe this is Ruins. Yes, it is. Ruins is a 4-point map. We have Mansion, Village, Ruins, and Lighthouse. Lighthouse, an interesting feature of this map. It's a separate little island, so teams will have to use amphibious transports or airlift units over there in order to capture that point.
Who's taking me over there?
Yeah, and there's no real big strategy on winning this map, although taking the Ruins is definitely a huge advantage of the map because it gives you the center.
How many troops you deploy?
There's lots of different tactics you can go for. You can go for Ruins, you can go for the Lighthouse if you want. You can go for the 2 main points on either side.
I can drop 6 right after
go
that.
for those. I've seen a lot of teams just do a large armor push right through the center to try and grab those 2 points. Other teams try and fortify, the Ruins. There's a lot of good tactics on this map, and it'll be interesting to see which team pulls out.
I just like this map because it's one of the few maps where you actually see amphibious transports being used to get to that lighthouse. Whenever I talk this map, always a big amphibious transport battle over there. But we're just waiting on a few players to ready up. If we didn't do so before, let's go ahead and do a roster rundown for the USA side, or for this map, NATO. We have Thor, Rescue, Raid, Hellhound, Trekker, and Jimbo. And give us a rundown for the USSR side.
Well, the USSR side consists of Cracker, Night Owl, Hybrid, Plaza, Pie Spy. And Night Owl has, as usual, running his air.
Alright, and we're getting ready to go. 20 seconds and we'll be on the road. So I'm just going to go ahead and hop back into spec. There we go, 10 seconds until we start. Let's go ahead and take a look at, see if we can't find any of these rolls right off the bat. Looks like Night Owl, as usual, is going air. Cracker's going support. Looks like he's going heavy. He's got 2 repair tanks and 2 heavy AAs. He has a teammate nearby him. Let me see who that is. Can't really get a close look, but we'll see once they spawn, as the match has started. Let's go ahead and take a look. Looks like Hellhound is going 2 heavy helicopters, 2 mediums, and there we go. Plaza and Cracker working as a team. 2 medium tanks and 2 heavy tanks. I believe they're going to push straight for the ruins, try and get lockdown on that as quickly as possible. Night Owl's going to run some cover for them, pushing up quickly. And near the mansion, we have Hybrid and Horton and who else? And Pie Spy, all making their move over to the mansion. So no attempts by the USSR side to move over and take the lighthouse at all. They're just going for mansion and ruins right now.
Yeah, it looks like pretty much they're going to cover ruins here. Although it looks like the majority of their armor is over at mansion, which means that, like I said before, they could make that hard center push right for the village and hope that the Americans are going to concentrate the majority of their forces at the ruins.
Well, I think they're
and
doing
just as
that
I say
right
that,
now.
yeah, it looks like tanks and AA are pushing right for the village, although if they can get some air support to knock out those other tanks, they might be able to grab the village off right from the start.
And we got smoke popping. It looks like Rescue and Pie Spy are going at it. 3 heavy tanks going up against each other. Rescue tried to maneuver his tanks to hit the vulnerable rear portion of Pie Spy's tanks. And looks like we have Horton with a medium artillery unit near the mansion. Not sure how much damage that's going to do, but it does look like Pie Spy may have the upper hand here, but I spoke too soon. And near the ruins, looks like there's a huge concentration of NATO units battling it out, just making sure the Russians can't cap this. They're on that point, so the Russians need a TA to take those all out. And here comes Trekker. Trekker's actually running air for NATO. He has 4 heavy helicopters, and he's going to do quite a number on Plaza's tanks. And I think the ruins might go to NATO right off the bat.
Yeah, it looks so, but at the same time, you know, I just noticed there's a lot of TA being dropped on the units trying to move to Lighthouse. The Soviets might be betting on having the majority of their units right off the stout going for the center and then trying to take the Lighthouse later on. Although they are battling heavily for the ruins.
Well, they're going to get Lighthouse right now. I don't know, Hellhound just dropped off some infantry there. I guess he's just going to have them stationed there, or he dropped off Jimbo's infantry there. Nice little bit of teamwork. So Jimbo's going to, I guess, keep infantry on that island and hold it. Thor's preventing the NATO forces from taking ruins right now, as he has 2 sets of tanks holding 2 of the points on that 3-point cap. Taking a look at the mansion. Mansion's almost completely fortified at this stage. I don't think that's going to go anywhere soon. And Plaza with the cluster bomb, taking out a few units of Thor. Oh, he gets them all with a double cluster bomb. So the ruins could go NATO hands right now if they move fast, and or to Russian hands, I should say. And I think it's going to happen as Cracker moves up a repair tank and a heavy AA. But will he get there in time? Oh no, just right in the nick of time. It was Trekker came up with some heavy AA and stopped the camp.
Yeah, definitely. The Russians are obviously putting their main focus into the center here. They're not worrying about the lighthouse. They're not worrying about the...
well, I'm taking a look. It looks like Night Owl's actually taking some attention near the lighthouse. He sent a few AA heavy helicopters over there. take a look as Jimbo is fortifying the position right now. He has machine gun nests up, and there'll be a little bit before anything else gets put up. But it's not that major. It's not a major focus for either team right now. But it is helping the NATO side, as they do have a slight lead over the USSR. And getting back to the ruins, looks like Plaza's pulling up the big guns, 4 heavy tanks. Cracker's trying to run some defense from the choppers, but he sends over some repair tanks. They're not doing much. Those Hellfire missiles are just oh, there we go. The USSR taking the village with a nice push-up from AA units, and Night Owl running some support. So that stopped a lot. But there we go, NATO retaking the village, and for a few seconds there they also held the ruins, and I think they can hold the ruins again if they get some heavy tanks over there, and that's what Hellhound's doing. He's trying to make his tanks go there as quickly as possible, but once Trekker spawns in with his heavy helicopters, it's going to spell disaster for Cracker and Plaza, who are really have all their units bunched up, and oh my god, Rescue with a nice precision artillery strike destroys all of Cracker and Plaza's forces at the ruins, so the ruins will fall to NATO hands. Taking a look over at the lighthouse, lighthouse still in NATO hands. Let's go to the big map. So ruins almost in NATO hands right now. Just need one unit to go to the side closest to the Russian spawn. The village is in NATO hands, so they're going to have 3 out of the 4 points in just a moment, and there we go, the bleed's going up drastically, so they could win this if they just manage to hold those ruins. There's a blazing comment's gone AFK for me for a second, but taking a look.
Yeah. Sorry about that. It appears maybe those fires might be causing a little bit of connection problems, but I am back and rejoining the server right now.
I didn't even know you left. Alright, but getting back to the action, looks like Trekker and Thor are just sitting back and fortifying these points. Trekker doing a pretty good job running heavy helicopters for the NATO team. No, he's not top on the scoreboard. Rescue is for NATO, but he's doing a great job for his team. He's done quite a number of saves on the ruins to help out the NATO side, and looks like the Russian or NATO tried for a quick push near the mansion, but that failed miserably, as you had Night Owl running around with its heavy helicopters, and there we go. Thor with the nuclear bomb on the mansion, and another one near the woods in front of the mansion. This could be an easy cap for the NATO if they move quickly, but they still have to contest with Night Owl's helicopters, as he's running quite a little bit of a defensive screen. And looks like Plaza and Cracker again making their move, trying to retake the ruins, which they need to take if they want to win this match.
Yeah, well, you know, the ruins is a hard point to take back. You need a lot of TA to get it, and when the Americans have, you know, the NATO has, you know, 3 points here, they're able to just stock up on TA, get their fortifications, get their repairs going. They can sit back, let the Russians come to them, and, you know, the Russians are pretty desperate for TA, and that's what they need in order to retake the ruins.
Well, they did, the Russians, I believe as Cracker, launched a few good fuel air bombs and cleared out a number of the units in ruins, but they still have to deal with those fortifications. They may not do much to defend the location, but they do have to be destroyed if you want to cap those points, and that's going to be the deciding factor. I think they're just going to hold off the Russian advance long enough for NATO reinforcements to come, and I think Jimbo's sending, no, I guess he's not. I guess he's just, Jimbo's really playing defense. Taking a look at the lighthouse, I don't see, unless a nice carpet bomb or a TA, a nuclear bomb goes there, I don't see that being taken anytime soon. But there you have it. Thor calling down a precision artillery on Cracker. He did that earlier to Cracker and Plaza, and it looks like there's a huge bleed by the NATO. They're about to win in just a few seconds. They have all the points captured. I don't know if the Russians can fight back at this stage.
No, it looks like it's pretty much over right here. You know, with all the tactical aid, the NATO team is just dropping down on all the Russian tanks, just annihilating every chance they get. They just smack them down, and it's obvious, you know, in a few seconds here, it's going to be NATO victory.
It looks like Horton is trying for one last desperate struggle to break the ruins. He has 2 light tanks he airlifted in. They're battling a machine gun fortification. I'm not sure if he breaks that, if they can win. The bleed's just too heavy right now. In a few seconds, if nothing happens, the Russians are going to lose. And there you go. Horton did break the ruins camp, but NATO's holding the mansion, village, and lighthouse, and that's going to be enough for them to win this match, as they win it with, I think, in 10 minutes. Oh no.
Yeah, definitely. Or just under it. Well, you know, the key factor right there that really switched the sides was that nuke. It just laid, you know, the grave down for the Russians. Once that nuke went off in the mansion, it was pretty much over right from there.
Well, I had noticed that, you know, the NATO hadn't been using a lot of low NTA past artillery strikes, so they're saving it up. I noticed most of the time for the American/NATO team, they like to save up their TA points for the bigger, massive tactical aid, like the nuclear bomb and carpet bombing.
Yeah, it seems that way. Usually, I'm used to seeing the Russians go with triple nukes. At least that's whenever I play with them. Although, you know, I think they've been a little stressed with just the smaller TA to deal with that stuff first.
Well, next map on our list is Island. Remember, guys, if you have any shoutouts, please pop on IRC, Game Search Network, pound e-rev. Send them my way. I'm e-rev, just add water. I'll read them out on the air. Remember, register for our forums, www.e-rev.tv.
Well, this is going pretty quick. Obviously, 2 total dominations here. The main thing I think that is the cause for that is that, you know, last time we've been doing all the Total War stuff, it's mostly been, you know, 1 map. Now we're doing 3 maps. Each team has their own experience on different maps. So I'm sure, you know, it's playing to each other's strengths. So it'll be interesting to see how Island plays out here, since, you know, they can't counter each other's strategies except from what they've seen on basic tactics.
I have one shout out here from actually, let me go ahead and ready up in the map, make this go faster. I think my game just crashed, not sure. Take over for a second.
Right. Well, we're still waiting for the Americans and the Russians to ready up here. Looks like they might be switching people. No, I guess not. But for the most part, you know, Island's going to be pretty interesting. You've got 2 hills on either end of the map, which are going to be key to take, as well as the 2 side points. The main focus of the battle is going to probably be the marina, since most teams will concentrate a lot of their armor and a lot of their air players in there. However, oftentimes enough, infantry players are dominant on the 2 hill points.
Let me just go ahead and get the shout out away. Shout out here from Maya's Airborne. Shout out to the 186 infantry from Airborne. You're all hooker hoes. So there you go. There's your shout out from Airborne. And getting back into the map. Remember, guys, shout outs, you can just go ahead and do them over IRC, or if you want, you can go ahead and send them through Xfire. My Xfire is bombs blow people up, all one word.
And the match is starting in 20.
But who do you think will be an impact player for either team on this map, Blazin?
Well, I'm guessing that infantry players as well as air players are going to be dominant, so I'm guessing, you know, Night Owl hasn't really done as good of a job as he did on Xmas, so I'm wondering if maybe, you know, the American air player, I'm not sure who that is, since they're pretty much, you know, switching them up, but that air player might be very dominant on this field if he's very good with it.
I think with Xmas in mind, Night Owl was able to rack up the points because all the Americans were using on that map was armor, and they sent it in, lambs to the slaughter, so to say. They just moved in, they weren't working as a team that night. But remember, this overall score is 1-1. This map will decide it, as it looks like Trekker Hellhound and Jimbo are making the move on the arena. Hellhound going infantry with a lot of snipers and anti-armor infantry, and Jimbo and Thor actually in the mix. Jimbo going support and Thor going medium tanks as they move up, and they're going to be into a confrontation shortly here as Night Owl runs across some AA and he pulls away, but I think he's going to lose a helicopter. No, he manages to keep his medium helicopter intact. Who do you think will take the arena, the marina at this stage of the game?
Well, it looks like the Americans have a lot more troops to take the marina with. However, it seems like the Americans have abandoned the hills. If the Russians can counter the marina attack and take the hills real quick here and recognize that the Americans haven't gone for that north hill, they might be able to secure a bleed here.
Well, it looks like they're doing just that. Hybrid, we've seen him do this before. He just switches out with these troop transports. Rather than getting the transport trucks, he gets the jeeps for their speed, and he just captured one hill. I believe that is South Hill. So I'm not sure if he's going to make his way over to North Hill, or looks like he's just going to sit his trucks there and build up the fortifications. And right now, Pie Spy has units in... or he did, but now he only has one unit in one of the control point circles. So the Americans, I think it'll really make a difference when Hellhound gets his infantry into position and gets them into those buildings. But Night Owl just coming by and just decimating a few armored units.
And the Americans have dropped off a couple trucks. It looks like they're going to grab the North Hill. But the main battle is pretty much at the beach and the marina here. It looks like the Americans have the advantage at the beach, but at the same time, it seems like the Russians have the advantage at the marina, which is the Russians are also taking out their American artillery at the same time.
I think the Americans are going to get this beach at this stage. Oh, and there we go, a nice tank buster by Hybrid. That the Americans almost had that beach, just had to deal with one heavy tank, but very good teamwork by Hybrid, calling in two great tank buster strikes. Managed to hold off the American advance on the beach, and there we go, Plaza with the cluster bomb, putting an end to any American hopes of taking the beach. This should be an easy grab for the Soviet forces. And over at the marina, it looks like the Americans have the advantage, but they're going to have to watch out for some TA, and the Russians do have the bleed at this stage. They have not major bleed, but considerable bleed. I'm not sure. It looks like no one's captured the South or the North Hill for the Americans yet. They have units over there, but they just didn't go for the cap.
Pretty much it's a back and forth battle here in the marina and the beach. Whenever one team gets a lot of troops, they're just dropping tactical aid, knocking it out. I believe they dropped something that knocked out those vehicles up on the North Hill from the American side, and that's why they couldn't grab it just then. But the Americans are going to grab North Hill, and it's pretty much balanced here. It's a battle of points at this point, and whoever can grab this next point.
Well, there you go. It's nice and even right now, but looks like the Americans or the Soviets have put a lot of focus into pushing forth and taking the marina. The rest of their units, Plaza, and I believe that's Cracker and Hybrid, are just focused on defending the beach. They're not really pushing up that aggressively. Hybrid's move, he has some anti-tank infantry in the woods, and they're ranking up. They have a considerable rank up at this stage. But looks like I don't know, I think the Americans really want this beach. They keep putting forth a lot of their air units and a lot of their ground units and TA towards reclaiming.
Yeah, definitely. Both teams want both the marina and the beach since they are in the center of the map and they control a huge portion of the battle. Like I said, you know, the main battle is going to be at both of these points. It's just going back and forth, side by side. The Americans and Russians pushing on both ends, and whoever can get fortifications down on either of these points is really going to have a tactical advantage here.
Well, just taking a look at the beach, one of these teams is about to call. I just sensed the TA coming. You have a bunch of units, a bunch of armored and support units clumped up, so I can just see a few tank busters coming by any second right now. We'll keep our eyes peeled for that. But over at the marina, untaken at this stage as Jimbo with a nice cluster bomb takes down 3 of Horton's heavy anti-air vehicles. And it looks like the Russians will take the beach So they have the beach, they still have their bleed, their marina is untaken. So the Americans right now only have 1 point, and I believe that is South Hill, or North Hill, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And it looks pretty much, you know, the Americans, for some reason, I don't see very many units from the Americans. I don't know if they're preparing something or they're waiting for their heavier units. Maybe that's it. But the Russians, on the other hand, they've got a lot of lighter units, which allows them to be a little more mobile on the map. They don't have to worry about whenever they lose every single point. So the Americans are just, you know, as you can see here, just watching Thor push into the marina. He's got 4 tanks. He was, you know, sitting back and just waiting to get all the, you know, the points just to get those tanks. And that might be the Americans' downfall here.
Well, it does seem to be both sides. Like, I see the Russians, especially with Hybrid, just getting those troop transfers running around the map. But it looks like it's going to pay off for Thor right now, as he does capture the point, bringing it back to a dead stand on the bleed. But there's no real air cover at this stage, so Thor's, I'm sensing that he's going to lose these tanks shortly. And with those 3 heavy tanks there, I can see, or even more heavy tanks coming up as Hellhound falls up. And there we go, there's some of the TA. Heavy artillery strike taken down one of Trekker's helicopters. That's always disappointing when artillery manages to take down one of your helicopters. But Thor, just right now, I don't even think he's using his tanks for. They're just more defensive units, just sitting there trying to fortify the marina as quickly as possible.
It seems like the Russians there from both Plaza and Cracker tried to make a push onto the North Hill. Unfortunately, in order to get there, they went and used the route that would normally be used by the Americans, so they got caught up by the American reinforcements, and there's definitely a lot of them right now. Although the Russians are doing a good job of at least keeping them away from the bridge by keeping them so far away. At the same time, though, the Russians, all they need to do is just gray the marina. The Americans need to try and push them away from the points themselves, even though they have fortifications.
I see a rescue battling up on that route you said the Russians were taking, and try and dislodge this North Hill. And right now, the people up there, it just looks like it's Cracker, and all he has is medium AA and a heavy AA up there, so that's not going to do much. But the beach right now on the Russian side is well fortified by Hybrid. It has 3 heavy infantry units, or anti-tank infantry units, along the forest there, so those are going to be something that will require tactical aid to get rid of. And I'm not sure what Cracker is doing up on this North Hill, but he's about to be run down by rescues, heavy tanks. I believe he's trying to make his way to safety over at North Hill.
And 2 fuel air bombs just went off on Mansion as the Russians are nowhere to be found to push.
Well, there you go.
That was. I guess they thought, you know, they just get points or something like that. They just wasted 2 beautiful fuel air bombs on, you know, decapping, knocking out all the fortifications there on the Mansion. They could have pushed there, but there's no Russians. They're just dropping in, and they can get there obviously before fortifications get set up. But still, I just felt like a wasted TA there.
Oh, and there you go. Thor pre-nuking a path that he knew the Russians would be taken. I guess he knew something was coming after those 2 fuel air bombs, so he went ahead and pre-nuked the area, and he took down 4 heavy tanks and 3 heavy AAs. So that's going to set the Russians back a little bit, but you have 10 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. The Russians do have the advantage, so if nothing changes for the Americans soon, or within these next 10 minutes, the Russians will walk away with the victory on this map, and it looks like the Americans are attempting a beach push, as they have managed to dislodge those anti-tank troops, and their heavy tanks are just destroying all these fortifications. Nothing much is going to stop them at this stage with the heavy choppers and the heavy tank.
Yeah, definitely. That was a huge blunder by the Russians. If they had just, you know, waited for their units to come in before they dropped those fuel air bombs, they could have had both the beach and the marina, and then the Americans would have been having to worry about a push from either side. But, you know, I mean, that's just pretty much huge here, as the Americans are probably going to knock out this last fortification, decap that next point, and then, you know, start to get a bleed ticker for their side.
Well, it's not looking good for these Russians, like you said. the Americans are being held up by the fortifications. They may not do much damage, but they do make a big difference. And there you go. The Americans broke the cap. Now they have the bleed. It's not a big bleed, but in a minute or two will be enough to bring this match even, or if not, the American advantage. So the Americans, looks like they're moving around their tank slot. They don't want to lose them to any TA. They're moving around their tanks slightly, enough to move out of the path of a tank buster if one comes around.
Well, the unsung heroes of this whole thing are the repair units. Pretty much I'm just watching as the Americans, whenever they get one of their tanks damaged, they just smoke it, pull it back to the repair trucks. They're doing a good job of keeping their tanks alive, whereas the Russians are just blindly charging with their tanks. They're having to pull back their repair units in their area A because their tanks keep getting wiped out before the repair tanks can go up there to repair them.
Well, looks like the Americans will get the beach at this stage. We have 3 open points, so quick pullback of American units, which actually I don't see happening. It looks like Rescue's running down some units. I'm not sure why he's doing that. Maybe he's just trying to hold them off there, which is probably a wise decision. Or bait them into Trekker's heavy helicopters, which is almost managed to take down a heavy tank, but no cigar there. It looks like Rescue needs to pull his heavy tank onto this middle point instead of fighting it, and the Americans will have a substantial bleed. But he pulls them off, and he's going to battle with them. Not sure if that was the wisest choice.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like the Americans... Oh, wow.
Whoa! A nice TA there by Rescue. So I guess he did have something in mind. He baited all those Russian units to him, and he called in a carpet bomb and just dominated a lot of tanks, a lot of infantry. And it looks like, who is it, Hybrids trying to rush over to the beach with some quick trucks to try and decap the point and slow the bleed. Bleed is in the favor of the Americans right now. And here comes some repair units from Cracker and heavy tanks from Pie Spy. And that's a failed attempt by Hybrid. Maybe he tried to rush in and decap the point, but he didn't get anything good. And here comes Pie Spy with no AA cover, so he's going to fall quickly to Trekker if he can't get some AAA over near his side.
Yeah, definitely. And the Americans are pulling this out not because they're fighting better, not because their tactics are better, but because of pretty much, their repair vehicles are getting tons of points by repairing their units, constantly keeping their units alive, and at the same time, because of that, they get so much TA, they're just dropping this devastating TA, knocking down all these Russian advances.
Well, the Russians did just manage to break the beach cold, but, there's no AA defense, and these tanks are just lambs to slaughter. I used that before, but it's the truth. They're calling in more tanks now, but they have no AA support. And here comes Trekker with another heavy helicopter, and I think it's Jimbo's calling in some, there's a heavy artillery vehicle just pounding this first point. So the Russians are just trying to go for, I'm not sure what they're trying to do at this stage. So I think they're trying to overwhelm the American defense with just a lot of units.
Well, they need to start thinking about getting those hill points back, because obviously, and just as I say that, their whole force just gets absolutely wiped out by a Trekker, as pretty much there's no Russians units left. 2 nukes pretty much wiped out everything. There's a few, repair vehicles by Cracker over by the beach, but they cannot stand up against those tanks. And it was a beautiful nuke.
I was wondering why they pulled back, but again, this is just, they did this earlier with a carpet bomb. Rescue pushed his troops forward and pulled a few back to draw the Russians in, and there you go, a massive TA usage right there. The Americans have the beach again. They just secured it. The Russians didn't stop long enough in a point to hold it, and now domination. Give it 10 seconds, and the Americans have won less than that. I think they've got this. Russians they have no offensive units. They're trying to send infantry in there, but they're just getting irradiated. And there we go. The Americans win this map, and they win this Tuesday night fight with a score of 2-1.
Yeah, definitely. And the big thing about this, the Russians had 2 opportunities there. Once, they tried to go for the North Hill, but they just got hit by those reinforcements. And then the second time, They wasted those 2 fuel air bombs. If those 2 fuel air bombs had been used in combination with units, the Russians might have come out on top here. But instead, you know, the Americans just pulled back here, dropped the TA, destroyed all the advances by the Russians, and just ended off with a big win.
So it was a good game by both teams tonight. Excellent play by the Russians on Silo, and even great plays by the Americans on Island and Ruins, or the Americans in NATO on Islands and Ruins. They did a great job holding the main ruins. They did an even better job getting the beach and the marina on Island. So let's just go ahead, drop out for a little bit. Remember, guys, every Tuesday we have this match, Tuesday Night Fights, on Total War. Go ahead and visit them, see what they're all about. I've played in tournaments similar to Total War, and I can tell you, they're a lot of fun if you've never played in anything competitive. They're a great doorway to go into other leagues and other events. And also, please visit our website, e-rev.tv, and register for our forums. And if you're looking to shoutcast, or if you think you can videocast, go to our forums, read what the requirements are, and if you think you fit the bill, go ahead and post. But I think we're done for the night, so this is just Sadwater signing out.
This is Blazing signing off, and we'll see you tomorrow. Or, not tomorrow, but Tuesday, sorry.
And don't forget, we have other casts coming up this week. Tomorrow we should have a Team Fortress 2 TWL ladder match, and Thursday we should have a CEVO Team Fortress 2 match, so plenty of action over at e-rev.tv. Keep posted. Limek out.
That was our videocaster, Limek. Great job tonight. And as he said, guys, we've entered TF2, so go ahead and check out our TF2 matches. Great casting on that game. So, again, we're off for the night. See you next Tuesday.